Hi folks, and welcome back to our section on job analysis. Specifically, we're going to look at job specifications. Alright, so why do we have a job specification? It answers the question, what human traits or experience are required to do the job? And these job specifications are basically little summaries of the skill, effort, responsibility, and working conditions that somebody works under. And it gives the recruitment people an opportunity, if they're going out to look for people for jobs, they'll look at the job specification often to get an idea of what the job requires so that they can give the candidates the right information and find people who meet the exact requirements of the job as set out in the specification. So when we're looking for the traits and experience required to do the job, just make sure that anything that's listed in there, the HR people got to make sure that anything that's listed in the specification is actually really required for the job and it's just not something on somebody's wish list. Which leads us to the second point. We want to make sure that we don't set unreasonably high educational or experience standards because that precludes some very good candidates from getting access to an interview and even getting the job. We have to make sure that the qualifications of any incumbents, people who are already in the job, aren't confused with the minimum requirements. So we might say, well, we have somebody in that job now who has a master's degree. So if that person leaves that job, we want to have get somebody in that job with a master's degree. Well, that person might have got a master's degree even though it's not required for the job. So just make sure that just because somebody who already holds the job has a higher level of education than what's really required, we're really reflecting in our specification the minimum requirement. And sometimes for entry-level jobs, we just have to make sure that we identify any physical and mental demands that are required in the jobs. So now if we have a look, in your text they talk a little bit about physical demands analysis, and I picked this screenshot from your textbook, and most HR people will do what we call a physical demands analysis so we can get a better idea of the working conditions associated with the job. So in other words, in this one is just an example. How often do you use your hands or your feet? Because sometimes people require they're operating special machinery and equipment and they have to press pedals and stuff like that. Just like when you're driving, you have the brake, you have the gas pedal, stuff like that. You have to move your feet around, right? Some people do that a lot in their job because they might use equipment every day. So, and again, some people require a lot of manipulation. Just think about your cell phone. If you opened up your cell phone and saw how that was made, you'd see it has a lot of little electronic component parts. Well, somebody actually has to make that and has to have enough manual dexterity and flexibility in their fingers to actually, maybe get into little areas with special tools that are very, very small in order to assemble your phone. Same kind of thing. So the idea is, for example, does the job require that you have to be using your hands consistently 2 hours a day, maybe 4 hours a day? And even do you get any breaks? Some people go for long periods of time working with their hands, their feet, so they could be standing for long periods of time. They could be, making your cell phones and other little electronic handheld devices, and they might not get breaks, but they're doing it constantly. So you can imagine that your fingers would become fatigued after a period of time. So we need to get all this information to get an idea of the working conditions and the physical demands of the job. So these kinds of things would all be set out in a job specification, and this little example here gives you an idea of what one would look like for a lifeguard. And again, you can get the full one in your textbook, but it normally starts off with a job summary, and it would tell you anything about the skills required for the job, the effort, responsibility, and even working conditions involved. But you can get the rest of the specification sample in your text. Now I want to look a little bit at the last step, which is communication and revising the job description and specification. Anybody has a right to see their job description, so you should communicate that you've completed the job description and allow your people who hold the jobs an opportunity to see those descriptions. Most companies will post them on their portal page. You should anticipate doing modifications, especially if your company is undergoing a restructuring. Maybe they're developing new products, so maybe you have to move to another department or take on new responsibilities in your job. Maybe there's technological change. You're going to need to learn new things in your job.